Settle in, folks, because we're diving into a story that's as chill and thoughtful as the monks we're about to talk about. So, get comfy, maybe close your eyes, and let your imagination take a little trip back in time. Picture this, the heart of the Alps, way back when, and we're on the hunt for a curious mystery. Ever wondered why those medieval monks so far from the ocean were gathering up all those funky seashells? Let's find out. Imagine the scene. High in the mountains, surrounded by soaring peaks and silent snow-dusted forests, stands a monastery. Its stone walls have weathered countless seasons, a sanctuary of peace and prayer. Life here is dictated by the ringing of bells, the changing of seasons, and the quiet rhythm of devotion. The monks who live here are scholars, farmers, and men of faith, their days filled with transcribing manuscripts, tending gardens, and chanting psalms. It's a world removed from the bustling trade routes and the crash of ocean waves. Yet within these secluded walls, in a quiet corner of a library or a personal study, you might find a small, curious collection. Carefully placed on a shelf would be shells, scallops, conches, and other marine fossils. These weren't just random stones picked up on a walk. They were objects of contemplation, brought hundreds of miles from the nearest coast. Why go to such lengths? Why did these objects hold such fascination for men so far removed from their origin? To understand this, we need to understand the medieval mind. For these monks, the natural world was not just a collection of plants and animals, it was God's second book, a vast and complex text filled with symbols and meaning, just like the Bible itself. Every rock, every leaf, every creature held a divine message, a lesson waiting to be deciphered. A lion represented courage and Christ's resurrection. A pelican, sacrificing itself for its young, was a symbol of selfless love. And the seashell? It carried its own profound symbolism. The scallop shell, in particular, was deeply linked with pilgrimage. It was the emblem of St. James the Greater, one of Jesus's apostles, whose shrine at Santiago de Compostela in Spain was one of the most important pilgrimage destinations in the Christian world. Pilgrims who completed the arduous journey would return with a scallop shell, a tangible proof of their devotion and their travels. For a monk in an alpine monastery, who may have been bound to his cloister for life, possessing such a shell was like holding a piece of that sacred journey. It was a connection to the wider world of faith, a reminder of the spiritual paths trodden by others. It wasn't just a shell, it was a symbol of a completed quest, of faith rewarded. But the symbolism went even deeper. Fossils, which they certainly would have found embedded in the alpine rock, were a source of immense wonder. They called them tongue stones, or serpent stones. Finding a seashell perfectly preserved in a mountain rock, thousands of feet above sea level, was a puzzle. How did it get there? To them it wasn't a question of geology, a field of study that didn't exist yet. Instead, it was a testament to the great flood described in the book of Genesis. These shells were seen as direct physical evidence of that cataclysmic event, a time when the waters of the world rose to cover even the highest mountains. Holding a fossil shell was, in a way, holding a piece of biblical history in the palm of your hand. It affirmed their faith, making the ancient stories feel real and present. There was also a scholarly and philosophical aspect to this quiet collecting. Monasteries were the universities of their day. Monks were the intellectuals, the scientists, the philosophers. They created encyclopedias, known as bestiaries and lapidaries, which catalogued the known world and its moral or spiritual significance. A strange shell from a distant land or a fossil from a nearby mountain was an object of study. It was a curiosity to be examined, drawn, and described. It sparked questions about the shape and structure of God's creation. They marveled at the perfect spiral of a conch shell, seeing in it the divine geometry that ordered the universe. It was an intellectual exercise, a way of meditating on the intricate and beautiful details of the world, and through that, growing closer to its creator. These collections were never vast. They were small, personal, and precious. A single shell might be passed down from one monk to another, its story and significance whispered in the hallowed halls of the scriptorium. It wasn't about monetary value. It was about spiritual and intellectual wealth. The shell was a conversation starter with God, a focus for meditation, a tangible link to a world both physical and spiritual that lay beyond the monastery walls. It represented travel without moving, history without books, and a science built on faith and wonder. So as you drift deeper into relaxation, picture that monk. He sits in the low light of a candle, the world outside hushed by a blanket of fresh snow. In his hand, he cradles a seashell. He traces its ridges with his finger, feeling the texture of a world he has never seen. He is not just looking at a shell, he is contemplating a journey. He is touching a piece of a sacred story. He is marveling at the boundless creativity of a divine artist. And in that quiet, simple act, he finds peace. He finds meaning. He finds a connection to the immense and mysterious universe, all contained within one small, beautiful object from the sea, found inexplicably in the mountains. Thank you for joining me on this gentle journey tonight. I hope it has brought you a measure of peace and rest. Follow along for more quiet stories. Until next time, sleep well.